Welcome to the MMA Show presented by Bet the Farm Podcast. I am going to be the host today, Brandon the Pig Plotnick. I'm joined with our UFC expert, Wesley Berndog Bernero. Got a pretty exciting show. I talked a little bit on the Bet the Farm podcast this week, a little hype, intro into the fact that we're going to be doing some of these shows moving forward instead of just giving one play at a time. We can actually dive a lot deeper into full cards and really give some analysis and give you guys some of our favorite picks. So without further ado, Berndog, how we doing, sir?
We're doing well, my friend, especially after your incredible run last week. I want to let the viewers know he was 6-1, hitting the cash crop, which we were both very, very bullish on.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I went to you first to see what you thought about the card, and I think we both kind of hit the nail on the head with that Charles Oliveira analysis and handicap. So that was a nice cash at plus 140, and the whole card was just red hot. It was one of the sickest cards I think I've seen. It was definitely
scrappy cards, man. It was scrappy cards.
I know. I think it was probably the card of the year-ish. It was up there. Not name-wise, but entertainment-wise. I know.
The whole year.
It was up there, though.
I'll have to get back to you on that one. We watched so much UFC.
I know. Well, I was thinking of the Fight Island cards when the pandemic was in the middle and there was like 4 title fights on that one card. So that one was kind of hard to beat, but the fights weren't that entertaining, honestly. They were just for belts.
Is it me or were you disappointed that they weren't actually fighting on the beach?
Yeah, well, we talked about that. I know. You kept saying that, and I was like, no, they definitely are fighting inside of a stadium or inside of an arena, and they kept promoting it on a beach. It was very confusing. But, yeah, so it was a sick card last week, but we've got one final card of the 2020 calendar year, UFC Fight Night this weekend. Thompson versus Neal. Wonderboy is back at the Apex in Las Vegas. This is a pretty underrated card, honestly. It didn't get much hype in terms of, big names really, but this is going to be entertaining, I think.
I can tell you the hardcores are excited.
Exactly.
They're excited. This is going to be one hell of a scrap. They're all ready. It's end of the year, biggest card at the end of the year. They're going to have to live up to that Figueiredo.
Good luck.
That Figueiredo fight, that's a fight of the year candidate. I don't think it's going to beat Joanna Wesley.
That was the one I thought of first for sure. I mean, that was just epic.
Yeah, absolutely. So
and for a title. So, well, I mean, they were both for a title, but that fight was just bonkers.
What's crazy to me is the fact that Figueiredo had an infection the night before.
I saw that.
And had a terrible weight cut because he was trying to deal with this infection. He was still cutting weight. I think it was because of his weight cut and how strenuously. Still can't say it right. And that's why I'm the Berndog. But anyways, that really factored into it, and I'd love to watch his weight cuts going forward. That's going to be a factor in every cap with him next time.
Yeah.
So props to Brendan Moreno. That kid's a dog. He's not going anywhere. He's brought life into that division that we thought Henry Cejudo brought in. But when he comes back, because he's coming back. If you don't think he's coming back, you don't know Dana White.
I took Moreno money line. I thought I had a chance on that too.
Majority draw. I'll tell you, I won a 5-leg parlay off a majority draw. Wonderboy versus Tyron, their first fight, and being on the right side of a majority draw.
It's always nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
let's get into this.
Yeah, so speaking of Wonderboy, he's back fighting in the main event this week. This is actually a 15-card fight, so it's going to be a long night. So I'm expecting a lot of firepower. And for the sake of time, it doesn't really make sense, especially for the casual fan out there, to go through every single prelim fight. So we're really going to focus heavily on just the main card, which still has 6 fights. So it's going to be a lot to talk about anyways. But when you looked at the prelim card, what first caught your eye?
One of the most interesting fights on the prelims has to be Tafon Nuchui versus Jamie Pickett. Tafon is a heavyweight naturally. He fought heavyweight. When you look him up, it says 225. He's dropping weight. Pickett's a natural middleweight. It's going to be very interesting. It's got remnants of Ngannou and Rosenstruck when they first came in. Nobody really knows them. There's not a lot of fight tape, but he's a freak athlete.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a good fight. And since I'm the Berndog,
Mm-hmm.
I got to pull out some crazy dogs. I would take Jamie Pickett at plus 265. If you want some value, only a half a unit, maybe a unit if you're up on the week. But Jamie Pickett has a lot of UFC experience. He's not going to have to cut weight, and he should have the foundation, in terms of technique and experience against a very raw athletic fighter. Now, don't get me wrong. He might go out there and knock him out first round, like Rosenstruck does every fight. But that's an interesting one to watch. If you can't make time, because
the Cameroon Express. The Cameroon Express is coming. So I know that this is going to be his debut in the UFC, I believe. So
yes,
he fought in Dana White's Contender Series, had a sweet head kick knockout in the second round.
Yeah.
So he's definitely got that. If you look at his 4-0 MMA career, every single fight's ended in the second round or before. He's just a KO artist. So I think that if he's going to stand to fight, and it looks like he's got that kickboxing style with the kicks and punches and strikes. Pickett, if he catches one clean, you never know.
That African style has a lot of the Dutch kickboxing, the European striking mixed in with it, especially at this level of the UFC. They've been developing that for a very long time, and that's going to be very interesting. In hand quotes here, when you're taking that dog, you're thinking that he's going to weather the storm, use his experience and his cardio, and out wrestle him, maybe take him down, but bring him into deeper waters that he's never been in. He's only 4-0. I don't know his amateur record. I'm sure it's not very long, but we're basically thinking that Pickett weathers the early storm, uses his wrestling and grappling, keeps him against the cage, smothers his face, and hoping to get him to deep water. So
2 of his last 3 fights, Pickett went to decision, I should say. One of them won by, the second one lost by unanimous, and his last one was the TKO. So it sounds like it's going to – I mean, it's both their debuts. They're both coming out of the Contender Series, so we don't really know exactly what they're going to do when they face real competition. So I feel like that's a solid underdog bet.
I just feel that Pickett has been training longer. You know what I mean? A lot of
he's got more experience.
He wrestled. He's a natural athlete. He's been around the sport for longer. Usually the Africans that come out are found talents, just like in basketball. They're very raw, and they have what it takes to go the distance. But you never know in the first fight.
Of course.
And I'm willing to take plus 265 there. Half a unit for myself personally. But if he comes out and blasts him, which probably will happen.
It could happen.
You know what I mean? If you get more than a round out of Jamie Pickett at plus 265, you made a good bet.
Right. You're sitting in a pretty spot. So that sounds like a good underdog bet on the prelim card. The other thing that caught my eye on the prelims, of course, is Anthony Pettis is back. Interestingly enough, I saw on Helwani this week, he was on Helwani talking about how he's 3 months sober. He's cut out alcohol and marijuana from his life. He feels like a totally different person. He's having the best, camp of his career, he feels. And I mean, what do you see out of that fight with Morano?
I see a fighter that's not done.
Pettis?
We're talking about Showtime.
Yeah, no, I'm a big Pettis guy.
We're talking about Anthony Pettis, one of the best strikers, UFC champion. If you look at his record, let me pull his record up real quick, and let's see who he has fought.
He's fought some studs. I mean, just in 2020 alone, he just beat Cowboy, coming off a win versus Cowboy. He lost to Ferreira, who's a stud. He lost to Nate Diaz, beat Wonder Boy. That was the sickest, the Superman, Wonder Boy. He's fought Tony Ferguson, Chiesa. I mean, this dude just fights Stone Cold studs. Poirier, Jim Miller,
championship
Holloway. It's crazy. Barboza.
Every fight is a championship level fight. Recently,
Oliveira. Holy shit.
Oliveira, exactly. And
this is wild.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And I mean, he's not that old.
It's what comes with the name. He's only 33 years old.
Exactly. People think he's old. He's 33.
Yeah.
That's a late prime.
And he's got the style to survive. He doesn't always take that much damage.
Yeah. And the people that he takes damage against are, just absolutely known for causing blood,
Right.
for taking. Nate Diaz is known for bloodying up people.
That's the one I thought of for sure.
And he still made it through that decision. He took everything on the chin, and
he got his ass
knocked
kicked.
Nate Diaz out.
Yeah.
You know how hard it is? Masvidal couldn't get Nate Diaz out of there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there's just killers on killers on killers. I mean, you got Eddie Alvarez, Rafael dos Anjos, Benson Henderson, Cerrone, Stevenson, Guida, Henderson again. I mean, I like to look at the overall picture of a fighter so long as they haven't taken enough damage or had bad knockouts, aka my pick last week for Junior Dos Santos, which I was on the wrong side of. But so long as they haven't taken too much damage and haven't had really bad knockouts, then they're still there. You know what I mean? And experience is going to take over. Moreno has not been fighting in the UFC for that long. He's never fought anything of the championship. Throw Pettis in a parlay and thank me later.
I like it. So Pettis is minus 245 on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. Not affiliated with us, but just looking at the lines there. And over-under is a 2.5. I mean, which way would you lean on that? Just throw a money line in a parlay?
He's one punch away from knocking out Alex Moreno. Don't overthink this. Put it in a parlay and watch the fight and enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can't get too deep into these type of fights because Moreno is still a good fighter. He hasn't taken as much damage. He also fights out of Fortis MMA. Uriah Hall is coming out of there. A bunch of younger killers are coming out of there, and he's got a ton of good training partners. He's got no lack of people to throw hands with him, and hence, Hands of Steel is out of Fortis MMA, and that's going to be a big part of our cap tonight because he can fight and train on the daily basis with people that can stand with Wonder Boy. So don't overthink it. Put it in a parlay. Don't worry about it too much. You know what I mean? Throw a unit on a 2, 3, 4 leg parlay and know that you got a good bet there and enjoy watching Anthony Pettis because it's a pleasure.
Showtime, yeah. It seems like a good bounce back spot for him after facing all those studs and finally getting some lower competition. I can't believe he's on the prelim, all things considered, with this card, but that's what happens when you lose.
He is one big knockout away from fighting a contender.
Yeah, of course.
Because of the name, because of his draw.
Yeah, so let's move ahead to the main card. First fight on the main card, my boy, Greg Hardy, the Prince of War. I love that guy.
The Prince of War, baby.
A big Prince of War.
We were there.
Yeah, we got to see that
UFC
live.
Fort Lauderdale, boys.
Against
what everybody thought was going to be a terrible card ended up being bangers.
Yeah,
and we got to see one of Greg Hardy's first fights live, at least on the big stage. So I'm so excited, and I know you're a huge Greg Hardy fan. Sometimes against my own advice, but it seems to work out in your favor.
Yeah, it seems like every time I touch it, it works. He just KOs everybody. But you got Greg Hardy versus Marcin Tybura, the Polish man, the sensation. So he's a young guy. He, like I said, he fights out of Poland, and this is going to be a heavyweight battle. Greg Hardy seems to go short in fights, where Tybura has a grappling background, whereas I hear that he's been training with Jan Blachowicz out in Poland to work on his standing game. Now, what I think, the way I look at this fight is if he decides to stand with Greg Hardy, just like every guy before him, you're not going to have a good time standing with Greg Hardy. But we haven't seen too much of Greg Hardy's ground defense very much. We saw his one big loss, of course, was to Volkov in the main event, and he went the distance with him. It was actually kind of impressive. I didn't even think he was going to get that far, but what do you see out of this?
We'll go over his record in a little bit. I want to start off by saying he's going to have 1 to 2 chances early, Hardy, to get it done. He's going to stun him. If Tybura comes out and takes him down in one shot and then it's a hugging match from there, I just don't see it in Hardy. He's too dangerous. If Tybura puts himself in a bad position going for a shot, he's going down. He's going to take that hit. Hardy has the hands to defend against it, and Greg Hardy has been defending against takedowns in his mind in training ever since he started fighting. Nobody's ever wanted to stand. So what do you think he does drilling? He drills takedown defense constantly. Mm-hmm. And one of my biggest things that I have here is that Hardy started fighting so young, remnant of Francis Ngannou, that every time he fights, he gets so much better because his leaps are going to be larger because he's learning and he's being trained at a high level just late in his career.
Sure.
So who he was in the last fight is not who he is right now. I can guarantee you that. He is going to be expecting that. And what happens when fighters in good camps are expecting a takedown?
Right. Doesn't work out.
You get Jorge Masvidal.
Yeah.
You get guys working on countering a shot and putting him down. It only takes one from Greg Hardy. So we can overthink it, but from what I've seen from Tybura, he hasn't tried to take many people down.
No.
And it doesn't.
It was early in his career, he was known as more of a grappler because he
Yeah.
didn't have the standing game to compete with some of these studs. Now, as he's begun training with some bigger studs and he's gotten, you know, a little bit more comfortable standing, he tends to stand a little bit longer. I mean, look, he's coming off of a decision win versus Ben Rothwell, who's been fighting since I was in diapers, probably.
That was a terrible fight.
It was so bad.
And we were on the wrong side of that one, I believe. I think we were on Rothwell, or maybe we were on the under. I think we were on the under on that fight, but God, that was terrible to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it was recent. It was only in October. So
in his last 3 fights, all unanimous decisions, because he is at the point in his career where he knows he's fighting people that he knows he has an advantage against, at least in the grappling department. So he's not taking too many chances. But if we go back to who he's fought, you know, going back from 2018, he has Struve, he has Lewis, he has Fabricio Werdum, Arlovsky,
Sakai as well as a stand-up fighter.
Yep. But my point
with power.
is that
it seems like he struggles versus guys with extreme power.
Exactly.
So what would the bet be that you like on this if you're going to take something?
Let me go into a few stats real quick. I mean, we have Tybur with 3 straight decisions. 7 of his 12 career UFC fights were decisions. He's got great cardio, honestly, for a big boy. He can go into the deeper rounds. If it goes past 1.5, so midway through the second, he's probably going to win the fight. Although Hardy has shown heart and he's able to win the decision, he's done that. But there's just a drastic experience differential. I think that if you're going to parlay something in this fight, the over is not a bad play to throw into a parlay. I won't personally be taking it just because I have a different bet on this fight, but I do think that he's going to be hesitant. He's not going to fight Greg Hardy's fight. Greg Hardy's going to come at him. Yeah. And if Greg Hardy comes at him and doesn't land, like I said, 1 to 2 chances. If he doesn't capitalize on those chances, it's going to go into deep water. He's not going to have the cardio to overcome him, and it's probably going to go to an over decision.
I just say the one thing about Hardy, we don't see him gas often, honestly. Even in that Volkov fight, he really held his own.
I mean, he looked sloppy in that Jorgen fight, Jorgen De Castro. Once he blew his wad early.
Yeah, they were throwing haymakers.
We had Hardy, and we didn't think we were winning that decision, but he won it.
Yeah,
and he showed heart, and he.
It was a shitty fight.
He showed that he doesn't have a weak chin when he's tired, which is very important.
Yeah, of course.
So let me go through Hardy's. I mean, we have in his decisions, the Volkov fight was very impressive, and he almost stepped backwards in his win versus Jorgen De Castro, which is odd because he won that decision. But he looked better in the decision loss, in my opinion. He's shown that he can stay competitive when he's tired, and going back to it, it's a different Greg Hardy. So I'm gonna follow my eyes here, and I'm gonna take Hardy by KO TKO plus 150. If you want to get ballsy, which honestly you get better odds if you take if you parlay with an over or under, thinking they're gonna get it done, and you have that that half round edge. So what I'm saying is the over here is 2.5.
Yeah.
Right. So if we think he's gonna win by KO TKO, if you want juicier odds, parlay the under Greg Hardy, and you're getting plus 236 on that bet. The same bet, Greg Hardy KO TKO, because you're only giving yourself 2 minutes and 30 seconds of extra time if you're betting Hardy plus 150.
But based off your handicap, you said he's got to get it done in the first round anyways.
Yes, exactly. But what I'm doing here is I'm leaving myself open for the rest of the fight with plus 150. I'm putting a half unit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take many half unit bets, so it just shows that I'm not going to go against my eyes and against, your past bets because you've always been on Hardy,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm always wrong when it comes to it. So I'm going to follow my eyes, and I'm going to follow the pig, and I'm taking him by KO, TKO, half. If you want more juice, parlay it with the under.
Yeah, so I'm definitely on Greg Hardy, of course. But what I'm trying to think of in terms of value when I'm looking through this bet is he's minus 125 at money line, but only plus 150 to KO or TKO. It just doesn't seem like that extra juice really shows much value when you know he can win by decision. He's done it recently in those fights that you're talking about. So I think I'll still end on the TKO because I really don't think Tybura can stand with him. And I know that the first round is going to be there's going to be some big, heavy blows. And what's so impressive about Hardy isn't just his standing game. It's his ground and pound once he gets you on the ground. Whenever he knocks someone down, he jumps on you like it's no one's business. And he just throws so much volume at you. And it's TKO after TKO.
I got to say, his physicality comes from his defensive line play.
Of course. He's got the explosion.
I personally played defensive line.
Compared to these bigger fat guys that don't have that.
Some of the best defensive linemen I ever played with were wrestlers. They knew how to use their body weight. Mm-hmm. They knew how to toss people, and they were using hip tosses in a football setting. So all I'm saying is that Greg Hardy takes that physicality, and once he's on top of you, unless you're a BBGA black belt and you can reverse him, you're not going to get up. He's keeping you down. Once he gets that knockdown, and again, I'm playing it a little safe with the KO, TKO. Normally, I'm known for parlaying fighters with the under to get more juice if I think they're going to take the KO, TKO. But let's take a little bit of a safer bet here, just because in reality, there's a good chance that Tybura wins by decision.
It's possible.
So my other part of this was, if you don't agree with our handicap, that's fine. You know what I mean? Use your eyes, use your gut. Your gut half the time is going to lead you in the right direction as compared to, what our handicap is.
Yeah, digging too deep into the analytics and matchups and previous fighters and style can –
overthinking it.
Yeah.
So I'm saying if you don't agree with us here, plus 200 by decision, Tybura, great bet.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to the only women's fight on the main card. Is going to be a women's flyweight matchup. My girl, Jillian the Savage Robertson.
ATT.
Yeah, from America Top Team against.
I'm surprised we haven't seen her downtown Fort Lauderdale, to be honest.
She's a smoker. I follow her on Instagram. She doesn't look like she parties much. And
I'd get rejected if I saw her. It's worth it.
I know. That's what it is. And then she's fighting Tyla Santos. I don't know that much about this Santos girl. She fought in the Contender Series. She's only had one fight in the UFC. I believe she's had two fights, and she won the first one and is coming off of a loss. It looks like she's got the reach advantage. We know Jillian Robertson is a grappler. She wants to take you down and try to submit you. She does tend to get submissive when she's standing and backed into a corner, as we saw in the Macy Barber fight. That's not really her style. So that reach for Santos may seem to be an advantage, but that's also more, room for her to grab onto you, latch onto you, and take you down and, just suffocate you. What do you think?
I'll tell you, Santos's body type reminds me of Cyborg. She's big. She's strong. She's much stronger than other fighters in the division. And like I said, she's a can crusher. She's known for coming out, solid strikes, Muay Thai, leg sweeps, hard punches from the clinch. I see Jillian coming out and avoiding the hands, going into the clinch. Well, if you go into the clinch with a Muay Thai fighter, you're going to take damage there. And the thing about the Muay Thai stance is it allows you to keep your balance on one leg. Mm-hmm. So she's going to have great balance against the cage. I think she has the strength to stop Jillian Robinson from keeping her off the cage. I see something like maybe a 2 for 6 or 7 on takedown attempts for Jillian, because I do think Jillian will get her down maybe late in the fight. But she's also shown that she's tough, Santos. She can take damage. She's got that Brazilian background. She's not known for being a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but they can they can take more damage or at least stop damage. So what I see is Jillian gets on the ground. If she gets on the ground, I don't think she can submit Santos just because of her background, her strength, and I think that she'll be able to get up at least once or twice. But I think we'll see a lot of them on the ground, hugging almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A grappling stalemate.
Sounds like a boring fight, basically.
It sounds like a boring fight, but I'm excited. It's a good matchup. We both love Jillian Robertson. She's maybe 2 wins away from
she holds
a contender.
She holds some serious records in that flyweight division.
Yeah, she's
most wins, most submissions. It's pretty impressive.
She is 1 to 2 fights away from being a contender. If she wins her contender fight, she fights the Russian assassin.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, if there's one way to beat Shevchenko, it's going to be a polished grappler.
Ground and pound.
That takes her down in grounds and pounds and can keep her down because her hip explosion is just phenomenal. But
you can't keep her down.
But have we ever seen her jiu-jitsu escape or reverse anything? No, it's always powered out, hip thrust out,
get back up, throw kicks.
They're not technical escapes. They're all very powerful because she's just so strong.
She doesn't want to clinch. She wants to separate as much as she can. But
so I think down the line with a few more wins we may see Robertson challenge for a contender shot, and then from there, who knows? But she trains at ATT with a bunch of killers. She's getting better every day. She's still pretty young. She's only 25. She's not even close to her prime. So
let me ask you. So most people out there aren't going to know who Taila Santos is and what style she comes from. If you could think of any type of comparison, who do you think? I started to think the way you were describing her of girls like Emily Hill, where they like to throw that kickboxing with the long arms, with a lot of volume, but maybe not so much power.
I mean, it's a big stretch to say she reminds me of Cyborg, but her body type and the way that she likes to keep fights is reminiscent of Cyborg. Cyborg would, walk you down.
Yeah.
Once she got you against the cage, she'd throw elbows, she'd throw knees, she'd leg sweep. She would keep her balance. She would keep a very wide base as to not be taken down by people. So I'm not saying that she's anywhere near close to as good as Cyborg, but you'll see similarities in their game, and you'll see how she attacks the fighter very similar. Just she doesn't have the crisp striking or the long-term experience. Like I said, she's a can crusher. She's going out there to finish a fight as a women's fighter, which is decently rare. You know what I mean? But I think she has the strength to hold Jillian Robertson off, maybe even take her down too. We might see Santos on top of Robertson at some point, which I don't think either can finish each other.
The line indicates that it's 2.5 and it's juiced 165. So that being said, not to cut you off, but just to get to the play, it's basically a pick'em. Jillian Robertson appears to be a -115 favorite versus 105 for Santos. Anything you like here, or is this a pass?
Don't overthink it. It's a women's fight. They're both great. I don't see a finish here. I'm going over. I got it at -170. I anticipate it to climb. You may see closing -190, 200, but you got to think that the majority of women's fights go to decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm taking. I put 1 unit on it. Don't go big. Throw it in a parlay. I took it straight up. I'm confident that neither can finish each other. And let's move on because there's so much to go.
I know. We still got 4 fights left. We'll try to get through them as best we can, but this is really good value in analytics. So let's see. We're moving on to the bantamweight matchup, Marlon Moraes versus Rob Font. I know this is going to be I think it might be one of the most entertaining fights on the card, although the rest are still so good that we're still going to talk about. But Moraes is a household name for the most part. He's just like we were talking about with Pettis. This guy has fought some serious contenders. He really should have had a title fight if that Aldo fight went the other way, like most people thought he did. So, but then after that, he's coming off a few straight losses. So he's in a downward spiral, coming into an interesting spot versus Rob Font, who most people may not know, but he's got some serious firepower. What do you like?
Rob Font's a killer. He's coming out to knock you out. He's not like Jose Aldo who wants to counter, attack your legs.
Which is what Marias is too.
Yeah, but Marias,
he's a little bit more technical. I don't see him throwing crazy hands.
He's more technical, but I think Font's going to get in his face. He's going to bring the fight to him. And how does he react? That's the question. I got some points for you. Marias is on downward slide. We know he has ego problems. He's got mental issues. He didn't want it in the Cejudo fight. He won round 1 convincingly. And then round 2, he got hit with a Henry counter, and then everything changed. Why? Like, how can you be that high of a level and just get stunned for a second? Henry bought the pace to him. After he lost that second round, he just deflated. You know what I mean? And the question is, what makes you think that he's in a better mental space now? I think that his ego is just very large. He walks into the cage thinking he's better than you. And that's not a mindset of a champion. You know what I mean? That's not how they fight. But he's a better fighter.
You got to be confident, but
yeah, he's got feints. He's got the better counters. He's got the better striking. He's going to attack the legs of Font. But at what point, if Font is just lighting him up and walking him down, does Marlon crack? That's really my biggest issue with this fight, because I got some comparisons to Oliveira with Font, but I'm going to throw it back to you for a second. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, what's interesting is what I'm looking at for Font is we know Marias has had some really high-level fights recently, but Font hasn't fought all year. This is his first fight since 2019, and even then he only fought once. It was a nice win over Ricky Simon, which is a nice win. Ricky Simon's a nice fighter, but he hasn't really fought a full season since 2018. And also, I know you said that he's going to come at you hard, but he seems to go the distance quite often. So I don't know what to think about that, especially against a guy like Marias, who you don't really know what you're going to get every time, like you're talking about. He has so many different styles with that Brazilian jiu-jitsu and just being able to be a striker at certain times. It's just a funky style. But at the same time, what I'm looking at is the odds, and Marias is barely favored with such a great track record compared to Font in terms of quality of competition. It seems like the over-under would be where I'm leaning, and the over-under is 2.5, and it's basically a pick 'em on at that as well. I don't have a lean here. I'm going to fade this fight altogether. I haven't seen enough Font recently to make a full conclusion. What are you leaning towards?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. I have stay away in bold letters right here.
There you
go. But if I know some people need to bet every fight when they watch it.
Of course.
So, if I had to make a decision, I think the over at 2.5 is a good bet. Like you said, he seems to go to decision a lot. If he's in Marlon's face, does Marlon land the shot? Puts him out. Rob Font's got a fantastic chin, and there's a reason that he goes to these decisions. It's because he's got a great chin, and he gets in your face, and he hits you in the face, and he takes 2 for every 1 that he lands. Now, those type of fighters, like Henry Cejudo, tend to break Marlon Marias. So that's my number 1 reason for staying away. But Font looked phenomenal in the Ricky Simon fight. I was all over Ricky Simon when he fought Rob Font. I was all over him.
He was coming in with hype too.
Exactly. Ricky Simon was coming in with hype. But I got to say that Font is reminds me a little bit of Oliveira. He's been in the UFC for a while. He hasn't had a ton of success. He's stringing together 2 wins right here. He's 33. He seems to be coming into a late prime. Although he hasn't fought in a year, we had COVID. What he probably would have fought had, COVID not happened, So I think that his talent and experience is coming to a T here, pulling it from one of my favorites, Big Joe Osborne. He loves that line, talent plus opportunity. So, I lean Font here. I really do. I'm staying away because Marlon's the better fighter. But if I had to bet it, if you put a gun to my head, I'd take the over at -130 last time I checked.
Well, it seems like the taking Font as an underdog could work well in some of those parlays with the bigger juice that you were talking about earlier. So that's something to think about.
Absolutely. If you're in a big favorites parlay, don't be afraid to lay +120 on him. It's a small underdog. It's going to be a great fight. It's not – you're going to get your value out of it, and you'll probably see a decision win if Font wins.
Perfect. Well, let's move on to what I consider the fight of the night. In the welterweight division, Michael Pereira versus Kalen Chaos Williams. I know you got a lot to talk about on this one, so I'm just going to let you go right to it. But before I do, I just want to give my 2 cents. This is going to be so much fun because Pereira is one of the most unorthodox fighters in the UFC right now. This guy does flips off of the cage in the middle of fights. After every fight, he yells and dances. He is so animated. He almost is he's like a welterweight Brazilian style bender. Sorry, just the way he acts and talks.
Style bender, you're gonna hit my dog like that, dude?
I know.
Oh, come on.
I was on the tip of my tongue. I couldn't think of it. But no, just the dancing and how funny he is and animated. He's just entertaining, but he's walking into a cage with a guy who's going to take his head off or is going to be trying to. What do you like here? I know this is one of the fights of the night.
All that stuff you talked about, all the capoeira, all the jumping, the flying knees. You know what I think about that? Throw it out the fucking window. All right? He's stepping in with a killer. Chaos Williams, hear me now, is going to be a force. He is remnant of, again, a Francis Ngannou. He can hit you on the temple right here and knock you out. But if he hits you on the chin or, behind the head a little bit, that magic sweet spot, You're done. You're out. He doesn't even have to throw the power behind it. And you know what he does? He chambers his shots. Although we've only seen a little bit of him, from what I've seen, he's not overextending. He's not leaving himself open to counters. He is throwing shots that normal people would not be able to knock you out with. So I can't even imagine if he lands a counter or he loads up on an overhand right. You know what I mean? And we also haven't seen enough of his legs. You know what I mean? What happens if he comes out, starts chopping those legs with those freaking ham hocks that he's got on each leg? I mean, this is a complete eye test. I'm going against a ton of, capping rules here, but do not overthink this one like I overthought Cyril Gane versus Dos Santos. I was really big on Dos Santos. I thought it was a great dog. And what happened? The athlete came out and just put a hurting on him.
Right.
So,
Chaos is coming off of 2 straight back-to-back KOs in 30 seconds or less. This guy is going to come out with fire. Yeah. It almost feels like, just like you talked about in the fight earlier with Hardy, is if Pereira can withstand the first 2 minutes, maybe the first round in general, and that firepower that Chaos comes with, he might have a chance from there. But what do you think about the line? Because it is almost a pick 'em. I know you like, I guess, Chaos to win, or do you have a by KO?
I'll get to that in a second. Let me go over some stuff that backs up all my nonsense I just spewed right there. So we have Pereira. He's got the experience differential. He's got great distance control. That's one of his biggest things. He controls the distance. He's on his bike in the octagon. He's hard to hit. Well, guess what? He hasn't fought in the UFC Apex yet. What's up with the UFC Apex? 40% smaller cage. That's a huge disadvantage to distance control fighters. He's got less room to make mistakes. And what's the biggest advantage to a one-punch knockout KO artist?
Less room to move.
Less room, exactly. So what I see is that all these moves are just a massive waste of energy. Although Chaos is probably going to have some
flares.
No, he's probably going to have some cardio issues. He's never been into deep water. But every time we've seen Pereira in deep water, he doesn't have his spark anymore because he's wasted it all in flying knees and spinning back kicks and jumping off the cage.
Dancing on his way to the octagon.
Yeah, dancing into his octagon. He wastes, a tenth of his energy running into the cage. Chaos is going to come in there like a stone cold killer. He's a mini Francis, and honestly, at that division.
We've only seen him in the UFC twice, so we haven't seen a full spectrum of, good competition that he's had to face. But I mean, man, he's 1, 2, 4, 6, 8 fights in a row, 11-1.
We know that. That's why I'm saying when Francis came in, we didn't know. And I'm sorry I'm using Francis as this. There's just no one.
Well, it's easy to use Francis. Nobody's seen him fight in 2 years, so
yeah. Well, I'm talking about when Francis entered and he went on his great run. But although we haven't seen much of him, what we've seen is a high fight IQ. He doesn't expose his chin. He doesn't put himself in bad positions when he's attacking for the finish. And that's gonna, Pereira's not gonna knock you out by a 5 to 6 punch combo. You know what I mean? So he's going to knock you out with these crazy strikes, and then if he stuns you, then he puts it on. But exactly. I don't think Williams is going to play into that fight. I think he's going to keep his chin tucked. I think he's going to keep his punches chambered. They're going to be sharp. As soon as Pereira starts doing those weird techniques, he's going to catch him with a counter. Mm-hmm. Or, he's just going to hit him so hard that it goes right through his guard. So my prediction is just don't overthink this. Chaos isn't going to overthink this. He's going to come in and fight his game because that's what you do against a weird stylistic fighter. You don't bring in somebody to train with and waste all your time worrying about this. You say, I'm going to figure out the distance, and, hesitation isn't in his vocabulary. Mm-hmm. It's not. I see him, seeing right through Pereira's feints and putting him to sleep. I got Chaos by KO plus 150.
Nice. Chaos. Plus 150.
This is an eye test. So this is an eye test bet.
So I was leaning under, but that kind of goes hand in hand with the Chaos. It almost could make sense to parlay him in the under and get a little better odds on that TKO if that's the handicap that you're eyeing. So
for sure. I mean, I'm not. It's only 1.5. It was 2.5. I'm taking the under. 1.5. There is late second round KOs or nobody's gassed yet.
Right.
I really do think, it goes into the second round because both fighters are going to be hesitant. Chaos is going to be hesitant of Pereira's hands and weird moves. So we're going to see a lot of, feints and circling in the first round. I don't think they run in and start, just immediately attacking. Yep. I think the first round is going to be feeling each other out. The second round, they're going to go to war. That's why I'm not parlaying with the under. I would have mentioned it for value, but I truly think that it's going to be a Derek Lewis, Francis Ngannou. They're walking around. They're feeling each other out. They throw some blows. Nobody really lands anything in the first round because they're both afraid of their power and weird techniques and, this unorthodox. And it's going to take – he's never seen that before, so it's going to take – some time to get used to, and that's why we're not going with the under here. We're going with the plus 150. It's still a dog. It's great value. I'm sorry I took too long. Let's move it on.
No, you're good. That was a good value pick. So I might be tailing that one. I think that's got a good value on it. So let's move on to the co-main event of the evening. Jose Aldo versus Marlon Chito Vera. This is going to be a fun fight. Both guys have fought pretty good competition. Obviously, Aldo is a world champion. He's got an insane pedigree. Wild enough, he was coming off 2 straight losses and still got a title fight. So that was kind of funky against Cejudo. And I believe this is going to be his first fight since. So we don't really know what to expect out of Aldo. Vera coming off of a fight against Sugar Sean O'Malley where O'Malley broke his ankle or foot. And basically the first round, I was so excited for that fight. Big O'Malley guy.
I like O'Malley, but I've also been on the Cheeto train for a long time.
Cheeto's fun to watch, of course, but O'Malley, just so exciting. And it was just unfortunate, Mm-hmm. So we didn't really get to see the full arsenal. Once he saw that foot hurt, he just knew what to do. Just piece him up and win by points. O'Malley couldn't walk. It was pretty bad. Now, it's going to be an interesting bantamweight fight, especially at the top of the division where we're seeing a lot of turnover in that division. They're all beating each other up ultimately. I'm really excited for my Funk Master soon to get that title shot. I said Aldo versus Cejudo. It was Peter Yan that he got that title fight against.
that nobody agreed with, and nobody agreed with the decision either.
Yeah. So
Aldo won that fight, and we had bet.
Aldo versus Marias was the one that we thought
exactly. We had bet Marias,
right,
and we were so convinced that he had lost. And then we won. And
we were so excited.
We were so excited. And there's nothing like being on the wrong side of a victory decision. It's one of the best feelings in UFC. I mean, you're just so down. You're like, oh, we got pieced up. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you're like, I can't look. Bruce Buffer. And the winner by decision. And then everyone pops off. You know what I mean?
Split decision was wild.
But Aldo won that fight. Aldo beat Martin Marias.
So funky styles. I mean, they seem to me like almost the same fighters. So what are you seeing on this?
So what I'm seeing is that Aldo is not washed up. Before Jan,
that's the big talk going into this. Is this the end of Aldo's career?
He is 34, and he is not washed. You know what I mean?
I think it was
Jan is a killer.
Oh, he's a stud.
And he is just an absolute beast of a boxer in a terrible matchup for Jose Aldo.
Yeah.
Terrible matchup.
I think what made people really skeptical of Aldo in the last year or two was that one crazy big weight cut he had where he was skin and bones and he looked awful.
And he fought fine. He fought fine in that
fight.
Was
the Marias fight.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no problem in his weight cuts anymore. He's got the science down. He's got professionals helping him. I've been watching Cheeto for a very long time since he entered the UFC, and he's putting things together, and he's remnant. I'm calling out again, and I hate to repeat myself, but it looks like Charles Oliveira's run. You know what I mean? Other than the decision loss to Yadong Song, which was controversial. Mm-hmm. If you let it go to the judges, that's what happens. But he has been stringing things together. He's coming into a young prime. He's got a lot of good things going for him. But Aldo is just the experienced man. Give me a second. I'm going to run through my notes here. I think I got some really good points to help people bet on their own, because we'd love for you to tail us, but at the same time, we want you to make an educated guess. And if we can give you that information, that's the point. So, I mean, people thought Jan might have ended Aldo's career. Remnants of, Tony Gaethje. I don't see that. I really don't. He's in a different headspace than Tony. Tony's had a really bad matchup with Oliveira. And I don't think Aldo's took an overall more damage. He's had some bad knockouts, but they're not that bad. It was Conor, the Jan fight, it happens. But he's only 34, and that's the biggest thing. He's not that old. He's still got those youthful genes. He's the better striker by miles. Marlon has what I call catchy strikes. He is solid in his boxing game. He lulls unexperienced fighters into his big punches. Mm-hmm. And that's not how you beat an experienced striker. Aldo's not going to bite on his feints. He's going to wait for Vera to come to him to try and grapple. He's going to chop that leg. And, what happens when Vera's taking, 15 leg kicks in the second round by the time the second round happens? Mm-hmm. I think Aldo he's smart enough to learn from his fights. I don't think he's going to fight as wild as he's been fighting. I think he's going to fight a smarter fight. This is a must win. His career is over if he loses here. He'll still fight, but he's not coming back to a title shot. He wins here, wins another fight, he's back in the title shot. This is very important for him.
Let me just interject. Let's just call a spade a spade. His last, I know he's on a 3-loss skid, but those were to Volko, Marias, and Petr Yan.
Yeah.
It's not like he's – I know, but it's not like he's fought scrubs. He's going to be around in this division, and that's why I like this matchup so much. And who is Vera beaten? That was my next point. O'Malley, we're not counting. He fought well. Yeah. He deserved to win that fight, but he didn't fight a full fight. He beat Andre Ewell, who is, a great fighter, a great striker, but still young in the game. Nolan Hernandez. Have you ever heard of Nolan Hernandez? No. How about Frankie Saenz? I've heard of him. I've heard of Saenz.
Back when we were about 13.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then we got Guido Canetti. Who is Guido Canetti? I have been watching UFC since UFC I think 59 or something like that for the 50s, the
Yeah.
Chuck Liddell and Rampage Glory days. Who is Guido Canati? Who is Wu Ji Durin? He lost to Douglas Silva DeAndre. And then the only person that I know from there is John Lineker, who he lost to in decision. Granted, he was a younger fighter at the time in 2017. But then we have Brian Keller, Brad Pickett, Guang Yu Ning, Davey Grant.
All right, we get the point, right?
Dude, there is 2 other fighters on here we've never heard of, and we're not casuals. We might not be the biggest hardcores because we bet so much on other sports, but no, he has not fought anybody the caliber of striker as Jose Aldo. Do not overthink this. I'm not even going to go into Chito Vera. I'm not even going to go into Chito Vera's points that I have written here. I just convinced myself. Cash crop.
All right. So
Jose Aldo, -150.
All right. Well, what I was going to say was what's interesting when it came to the over-unders was for Vera, he has only 6 losses in the UFC. All 6 have gone to decision. So he's never been knocked out before, ever. He's never lost to a TKO. How do you see that fight ending?
I still don't see anybody on this list. He's never been knocked out. Yeah, I wonder why. You know what I mean? He might have been knocked out by Sean
But I'm just asking the over 2.5 is – what do you think about that? I mean, I know it's juiced. Like, they're expecting this to go the distance. Is he he's going to win by points, unanimous?
Aldo's pop isn't there, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't catch him in the counter. Aldo has legit 145-pound striking. Vera's a 135-pound fighter. There's a big, big difference when you go down in weight in your striking ability. I didn't see any signs of a bad weight cut by Jose Aldo. It wouldn't surprise me to see Jose Aldo catch Chito Vera. Mm-hmm. It really wouldn't surprise me. But I don't expect Chito Vera to fight a very large striking fight. I see him trying to push Aldo onto the cage, trying to find ways to take Aldo down because Chito Vera is a very creative BBJ black belt. Mm-hmm. He's got the submission game. It's there. Again, remnant of Oliveira. He is a dangerous submission artist when it comes to his ground game. But I don't think he's got anywhere near the chops of anybody that Aldo has fought in the last 5 years. And let's just go through Aldo. I need to go through Aldo. Give me this big. I know I'm going a little long, but Peter Yan, Marlon Moraes, Alexander Volkanovski, Renato Canaria, Jeremy Stevens, Max Holloway twice, Frankie Edgar, Conor McGregor, Chad Mendes, Ricardo Lama, Frankie Edgar, Chad Mendes, Kenny Florian, Uriah Faber, Cub Swanson. I mean, the list just goes on and on from his amazing run back then. And, if you can stop Frankie Edgar from taking you down, Chito Vera isn't taking you down.
So we got a cash crop of the week for the Berndog is going to be on Jose Aldo money line.
We're going 2 units.
2 units. All right. Now let's get to the main event of the evening.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm going 3 units. We're going all in.
All right. I love it.
We're going all in. It's the cash crop.
Bet the fucking farm. That's the way I like it.
Bet the fucking farm.
Bet the fucking farm. All right, well, let's get to the main event. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in a welterweight match versus Jeff Neal. We haven't seen that much Neal, and he certainly hasn't fought the level of competition that Thompson has, and this has been a recurring theme all day on this card is you've got guys who are coming off of a lot of tough losses but have a really high pedigree of competition versus up-and-coming fighters that – we don't know that much about, right? And I feel like this falls into that category as well. What's crazy about this whole card and looking through all the lines, I've never seen so many close lines on an entire card. Usually you're going to have one guy who's -350, one -600.
There's no value for the dog.
It's wild. There's everything on here is like -150, plus 130.
I got to take props to get a dog.
I know, it's crazy. But it's fun that way. That means that every fight's going to be insanely close, which should make for a really entertaining card. So let's get to this main event. I know there's a lot to talk about here. Wonderboy, we've seen him fight some serious contenders, and he's got an interesting style in this Neal fight. Neal, on the other hand, I just don't know if I've seen enough out of him. What have you seen?
I need to take a drink for this one. The dog is going against the grain. I'm going against the public. I'm not following the sheep. I'm going to break down why, but it's hard to look at Jeff Neal and say that you're going to bet against him.
Yeah, I mean, he's won 4 of his last fights by, I believe, by finish. Like, he's knocked people out. The guy's a striker.
He is one of the top 5 strikers in the welterweight division.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading today that somebody called him the second best striker in the welterweight division, which if you're passing Jorge Masvidal, you got a problem, sir. I need you to take a step back because I might hit you myself.
Yeah.
Because Jorge Masvidal is the best striker in the welterweight division.
Yeah,
but you know what their point was? That Wonder Boy is the best striker in the welterweight division. While I might not agree with that, that statement just shows that Neal is behind Wonder Boy in the caliber of striking.
Mm-hmm.
And when we see strikers versus strikers, and there's no grappling involved, and there's no takedowns involved, what you see is that one striker is going to impose their pace. They're going to impose their pace, and they're going to throw the rhythm off of the lesser striker. And the reason I brought that story up is that I do believe that Wonder Boy is going to throw Jeff Neal's striking rhythm off. He has never fought a fighter even close to the caliber of striker that Wonder Boy is.
And in a striking battle in that small octagon like you're talking about, it's going to be hard to escape some of those.
I'll get into the small octagon in a second. That's going to be part of my what to watch. For every main event, we're going to do a what to watch. Give me a second. Let me run through these because these are some great notes. So for Stephen Thompson, I mean, he's got the best distance control in the entire UFC minus Stylebender, of course.
Yeah.
My dog.
John Jones.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't even think of John Jones. I didn't even think of John Jones close third. John Jones first, Stylebender second.
That's that karate style, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So John Jones is a wrestling style. Stylebender is a kickboxing style. You know, karate style distance control is completely different. The stances are different. It's unorthodox. It throws you off. Let's keep going. So notable wins. We got Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whitaker. We got Rory McDonald. We got Johnny Hendricks. We got a draw with Woodley and a loss to Woodley. We got my dog, Street Jesus, Jorge Masvidal. And we got Vicente Luque.
I was looking at those two, and I was like, holy shit.
Minus Vicente Luque, you know what all the other ones have in common?
They like to stand?
They're UFC champions, babe.
That too.
So
well, we'll call Street Jesus a UFC champion for the sake of it, but he's the baddest motherfucker.
The BMF is a UFC champion.
they're all belt holders. They all held a belt.
So let me break that up because I didn't read that right and I'm a little tipsy at this point. He has fought 5 UFC champions, 2 of them twice, and then he also has fought 3 UFC contenders. And I might need another card over here because I think I threw my...
Yeah, you tossed him when you said throw that shit out the window.
Yeah, well, that's the point.
In the meantime, I'll kind of touch on just a few different key notes that
throw it back to you.
I've thought of is Neal's 7 years younger than him. I mean, they are saying, I think Wonder Boy's lost 4 of his last 6 fights. Is he declining? I know that the stylistic matchup may favor him, but karate fighters tend to age poorly as they get a little older in their career. Those funky styles and stances that they were accustomed to get a little bit exposed as they age. And Neal's really, as a legit striker, just has a lot of age on him. And I just think that Wonder Boy could gas. We've seen what happens when Wonder Boy puts his hands down, when Anthony Pettis can Superman him when he's losing or dominating the entire fight. I'm a little concerned about him getting the whole way in a 5-round fight.
He beat the fuck out of Pettis.
Yeah. He was dominating him.
He dominated him. And you know what? That's why they call him Showtime, baby.
I know.
You know what I mean? You don't see that out of Neal. Neal's a foundational striker. He's going to shoot from the hip from the chamber. He's not going to show what he's throwing. He's like we said, he's one of the most traditional strikers and cleanest strikers. But back to my original point, Wonder Boy, 5 champions: Woodley, Pettis, Whitaker, Johnny Kendricks, and Woodley twice. Sorry, so 5 championship fights. Well, 5 champion fights, and then he's got 3 contenders: Kote, Masvidal, Till. He has seen it all. Between all of those strikers, he has seen it all. There's nothing that
will surprise him.
Will surprise him, exactly. So unless Neal can rush in and stop that, he's gonna see what Neal is throwing. So I mean,
well, really, let's get straight to the line.
I mean, it's -110, -120 for Neal, what I have here. But I mean, Neal is just extremely sound. His length and distance control rivals Stephen Thompson. He KOs brawlers though, not outboxers. He KOs people that step forward, and he does what Wonder Boy does. He backs up and he counters in a lot of fights. Not every fight, but in a lot of fights, and that's how he KOs those brawlers. He's on a heater. He is putting everything together, and he's an absolute athlete. He's finished 8 of 10 fights. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He has the power. He's extremely technical. He was able to finish Mike Perry.
That's not an easy task.
Dude, Mike Perry, some of the best have failed, and that's because Mike Perry is so tough. But he high kicked Mike Perry, and oh boy, he put him on Queer Street.
Yeah, he was sleeping.
And then he finished calmly. He didn't throw anything too hard, didn't blow his wad, and he finished him. So, there is a lot here. There's a lot to go over, and that's why even if you tell me to move on, I got more to talk about because there's so much to talk about in this fight. He finished Perry. He's usually so dominant. This is going to be the first fight where we don't see a dominant stance out of him because he's got to worry about Wonder Boy.
Mm-hmm.
If he tries to attack like he normally does against lesser strikers, he's going to get outpointed, and that's not going to work for him. But I go back to this Fortis MMA. They're producing some of the best fighters out there right now. They're on a run. They're on a run right now, and this initially was my cash crop because I did all of these. I went through all the research on my own before reading any other research, and everything from the eye test and the research and everything I was reading and just going through stats pointed to Wonder Boy. And I'm good. I can't lean away from this, but it's a tough fight, but the numbers tell you Wonder Boy.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers tell you Wonder Boy. But I want to go through some Fortis MMA people. We have Ryan Spann. We have Macy Chastan. We have Miles John. We have Diego Ferro. We have Uriah Hall. We have Charles Bird. We have Moreno, who's lesser on this card. He's just got a bunch of good training partners. And I heard he brought in somebody, it's eluding me who he brought in as his training partner, but he brought in a striker to mimic Wonder Boy, and it made me think, oh, well.
He's preparing properly for this fight.
That's a proper preparation. So, now that I got all that out, there's so much to talk about and digest. I watched a lot of film for this one. I was able to watch Wonder Boy's fights, and, there was so much content that we needed to get through that I really didn't get to break down too much film on some fighters unless I was actually taking that bet. But I just got to say that one of the biggest things that I noticed in the Luque fight, and that's going to be the biggest indicator of what we see out of Wonder Boy this fight, because his old fights, that's a different Wonder Boy. He's younger. He had more pop. He can fight a different style. But as he's gotten older, he's had to fight a different way, which is just as effective. Clearly, you and me have been watching Luque for a long time,
mm-hmm.
and that guy's a killer.
Yeah, it's like Costa. He's just going to come at you and scrap.
Exactly. He's a scrapper. And He's a very technical striker. So the way that he stifled him was very interesting. And there was something that I noticed that he used against Luque that I think he's going to use against Neal. And that's this. When Wonder Boy is unorthodox, so he's going to go between two different stances. He's going to switch between orthodox and southpaw, but a lot of times he'll be in that karate side stance. But when you see left leg forward, I want you guys to watch this in the fight. When you see left leg forward, he's setting up for the high kick. He is baiting Neal.
Front kick, or he's going to come with the right foot?
He's going to come with either the right or left. It's Wonder Boy. He can do either. But he's setting up for the high kick, the power kick, the knockout kick. When he's got that left leg forward, a lot of times he doesn't stay in orthodox. But if you see him in orthodox, he's loading up for a high kick. He used it against Luque to stun him at one point. He didn't get the finish, but he stunned the shit out of him. So when you see that left leg forward, he's loading up that high kick. And the reason that I'm not going to say which kick it is because he's now fighting a southpaw. And a southpaw's weakness is going to be that orthodox right leg kick over the shoulder because that's his opening. You know what I mean? Because he's southpaw, he's going to be like this, and the high kick is open. He's not going to be able to see it as well because he's got his hands up and his left leg is right here, and Wonder Boy sets things up well. So he's going to throw something, and he's so fluid that he loads up with his power kick, comes over on the weak side, whether it depends if you're orthodox. In Luque's fight, he loaded up the front leg high kick over the shoulder and stunned him with that because that was Luque's weak kick. Against Neal, I want you to watch the right high kick out of the left foot forward stance, that orthodox stance, because he's not in it a lot. So when he is, watch for the big high kick. If he lands, you never know what can happen. It could be Wonder Boy KO. Now, in this fluidity to change stances is going to be one of the most important things because you won't see Neal changing stances. So does Wonder Boy fight in a advantageous stance against an orthodox? And it's unusual for an orthodox stance to be advantageous, but in this case it is because Wonder Boy can take advantage of the weaknesses that a southpaw has. And he can also counter them because he can throw each hand, each leg, just like he would out of a home stance, out of an orthodox or a southpaw, because of that karate stance. So watch for the left leg forward. When the right leg's forward, he's going to throw a lot of front kicks. Watch that to the knee, to the front of the chin. He uses a lot of push kicks to push people away and create that distance.
Karate style.
I think we'll see a lot of that because of the smaller cage. And he's going to favor the low kicks when he's southpaw, right foot forward. He's going to attack the forward foot of Neal, and that might take a little bit of pop off his punches. I'm not sure. I'm not calling it, but when he's got that right leg forward, watch the low kicks, watch the body kicks, watch the push kicks. In Neal's case, how does he counter? I want to know because he's never fought a fighter where he's had to counter. He's had to truly counter. He's fought brawlers where countering is open. They're not worried about that. They're in his face. They're punching, going straight forward. How does he deal with that? He's never fought a fighter where he is going to have to
adjust his style.
He's going to have to lead the dance.
Right.
Because Wonder Boy doesn't lead dances. If you lead the dance.
Take what you give him.
If you let Wonder Boy lead the dance, he's going to stay on the outside and point you to a victory. Period.
Now, if they get up against the cage or clinch, who has the advantage at that point?
Well, the Tyron Woodley fights would tell us Jeff Neal, but Jeff Neal doesn't have the wrestling chops of Woodley. Not of Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy doesn't have wrestling chops. He's got takedown defense. He's working.
Well, I'm saying you were talking about Tyron, referring to the Wonder Boy fights.
The Wonder Boy fights. Tyron was able to beat Wonder Boy because he effectively got his hands on him. He put him up against the cage. He was able to take him down in some instances. He didn't do too much damage. But the point is that Woodley was able to get hands on Wonderboy, and you beat Wonderboy by putting him up against the cage, taking his point fighting away, and putting just hands on him. Put that head down and gain head control, throw elbows and clinch punches. But we've never seen that out of Neal. So honestly, I don't know what his clinch game looks like. And to beat Wonderboy, I think he'll have to use his clinch game. And there's several fighters at Fortis that have that ability that, that's going to be very interesting to watch. Keep an eye on that during the fight.
So the line's at 4.5, but basically at a pick 'em. Now that 4.5 over under tells me they're expecting this to go at least 4 or 5 rounds, obviously, but mainly indicating that this is going to go deep. So it's going to come down to round by round points. Who has the edge when it comes to, tagging them and getting those point differentials? Because all that would indicate Wonderboy has the better opportunity to do that, whereas Neal has more power.
As you saw, I had to take a fat drink there because I'm going against the grain. I am using what the numbers and what the research has told me against what my eyes tell me. My eyes tell me that Neal's going to catch Wonderboy. That's what my eyes tell me. But in Wonderboy's case, he's such a good distance control fighter. He's so good at picking his punches, evading the feints and the lead punch and countering back. And he's also shown in the Luque fight that he can take those punches. He took a absolutely out of left field Superman punch from Showtime, baby. You know what I mean? If you look at his record, there's no other knockouts in the UFC. Yeah. No one else other than Anthony Pettis has knocked out Wonderboy. So what makes Jeff Neal different? I don't see anything that makes him different. He's a standard striker. He's a foundational striker. He's a puzzle that Wonderboy, and a key piece is his father. His father is one of the best striking coaches / head coaches in the country. And I just think that this is a puzzle that they have the pieces to solve. And my gut is telling me that I need to go with what the numbers have told me rather than the eye test. And I know I went over with Chaos, follow your eyes there, but Michael Pereira is not Jeff Neal. You know what I mean? That's not even the same caliber of fighter. We're talking about, and he's only 37. You know what I mean? He's not over the hill yet. He is one big fight away from being a contender again. Yeah. And that welterweight division is so crazy that, I think he gets it done. I think that he outpoints him. And
he's still ranked 5th in the welterweight division, having lost 4 of his last 6. Yeah. Above him, you've got Leon Edwards and Gilbert Burns and Masvidal and Covington. So there's really there is a path, but there's a path.
There's a path. Now, the path involves knocking out Jeff Neal. If he points Jeff Neal, it's going to take him a while to get back. But if he knocks out Jeff Neal, which many experts are taking Wonderboy by KO, TKO, they think that he can get it done. I, however, don't think that he's going to get it done. Jeff Neal is a very strong and smart fighter. I think that he stifles Neal. I think that he takes some punches. There's going to be times where your stomach goes, oh, whoa, 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 like, where you just you absolutely hate yourself for betting Stephen Thompson, but your brain says, don't worry about it. Tyron Woodley couldn't knock him out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
At the peak of his career,
At the peak of his career, Tyron Woodley couldn't knock him out. Do you have his Wonderboy's record up?
I can get it.
Just go through his losses.
Well, we talked about who he's fought. He's fought in total bona fide studs.
But I'm saying just go through his losses in the UFC real quick.
So Pettis was his most recent loss.
Which was knockout, which we just talked about. And then what
He's lost to Darren Till.
Darren Till decision.
He beat Masvidal, actually. Woodley, obviously.
Woodley decision. Woodley decision, Woodley majority draw, which is technically a loss.
Besides that, he hadn't lost since, goes back to 2013. He was on a heater up until those points.
Although this is
he was hot. Matt Brown was before that in 2012, and Matt Brown hasn't been around in years.
Yeah, exactly. Our boy fucking Miguel Baeza just knocked him into the next world.
Yeah.
Shout out Miguel Baeza, doing it for the Davey boys. But dude, your face says it all. When you look at everything and you look at the numbers and you look who each fighter is, you go, why is Jeff Neal going to knock him out? Why is this guy any better than the past fighters that have fought him in their primes?
Yeah.
In their primes. So, don't overthink this. Do not overthink this. Wonder Boy style favors this fight.
So who are you taking?
He's going to shut Jeff Neal down. He's going to take better angles. He's going to counter better. He's not going to fall for feints. He's going to have better cardio, and he's going to win by decision. And you know what that is? Plus 375, baby.
So plus 375 to Wonder Boy by decision?
Wonder Boy and the over parlayed.
Ooh.
Plus 375. It's going to vary on your book. It's going to vary on what your line is at. It's going to go anywhere from plus 340 to plus 375. If you have a local book, you probably can't parlay the two because Wonder Boy is even right now. My advice would be to wait for him to get a little bit of money in. If he doesn't get any money in, then go by decision plus 275. Fortunately, I caught him at minus 110. So I was able to parlay him in the over, which is an underdog, which is why a lot of local books, the small guys, they're not going to let you parlay two underdogs without a favorite included. Mm-hmm. So if you can't do that and get the big juice like we want to attack, take the plus 275, Wonder Boy by decision, and just trust in the stats. This is one where we're trusting in the stats. We're going to follow our eyes a lot, especially me and especially you. Mm-hmm. But don't get too fancy here. Don't follow the sheep, as our good friend Eric would say. And take the Berndog.
All right, Berndog. Well, that is the UFC Fight Night Thompson versus Neal card. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to do one of these, break down all the main cards for some of the main fights throughout the year. We have a little while off because it's the last one of the year. Next one's going to be January 16th, Holloway versus Cater.
Oh, we're going in.
That's going to be a fun one.
And
then week after that, UFC 257 and the Notorious is back. So we'll definitely dive deep into those.
Notorious.
So we'll dive.
We're big Connor fans here. If you didn't know, you know now.
So we'll dive deep into those. But again, this is the MMA Show brought to you by the Bet the Farm podcast. And we'll see you guys soon.
Your local sports bar.